Okay, and welcome back, students who are taking financial accounting. And in this series of videos, we are working on the assigned homework problems from the digital study guide for Chapter 12, which are the Group B exercises. Note, accounting is about understanding the concepts and then applying that understanding to the situation at hand. If you get the application aspect wrong, that is one thing and is easily remedied by watching someone else work the problem. However, if you don't understand the concepts, that is a whole other thing. Watching a problem worked out will not help if you don't understand the underlying concepts. Go back and study the text material again and watch the theory videos. If you still don't understand the concepts, then either email or telephone an instructor to get help with that understanding. Right, so get my pen here, 12-12. What are the dollar and percentage changes in Paws Pet Shops net working capital during 2013 and 2014? Is this trend favorable or unfavorable? All right, so I'm not going to, excuse me, I'm not going to rewrite everything here. All right, so let's see here. We'll draw a line underneath here. Okay, so my net working capital is the difference between my assets and my liabilities, right? So for each year, all I need to do is just subtract one from the other. So if I take 185,000 from 315, I end up with 130,000. For 2013, I subtract the 213,450 from the 328,500, which gives me 115,050. And then I subtract the 232,705 from the 336,250, and I end up with 103,545. Okay, so that's the net working capital for each year. Now the question is asking me, it wants a dollar amount. Dollar amount is the change and the percentage, right, for 2013 and for 2014. Okay, so the dollar amount should be easy because it's just the difference between this year and the previous year. So for 2013, we had 130,000, and for 2012, we had 130,000, and for 2013, we had 115,050, which gives us 05941, gives us a dollar amount of $14,950. For the change for 2014, we're taking, okay, and notice that is a negative, okay, right? The way I should have done it, well, not the way I should have done it, but you have to consider that if 2013 is 115,050, and then we're going to subtract out 130,000, okay, that gives us a negative 14,950, okay. But doing the math like that gets a little difficult because I'm subtracting a larger number. So knowing that I'm subtracting a larger number, I can go and I can take, as I do 2014 here, I could take the 115,050, because all I want to know is what the difference is, right, between the two numbers, and subtract out the 103,545, which gives me 50511, all right? $11,505 is the difference, but it's decreasing from the previous year, so it's a negative 11,505. Okay. If you have to, draw a number line. Here's the number line, right? Here we put on the number line 115,050, right, for 2013. Well, if we're here at 103,545, the difference between those two numbers is $11,505, but it's decreasing, so it's a negative number. Okay, that's what it looks like. So now we need to calculate the percentage change. Okay, so A percentage change is basically, right, if the amount is 14,950, we're looking at 2013 here, okay, we're going to divide that by the 130,000 from 2012. So if I take 14,950 and divide it by 130,000, I end up with 0.115, which is 11.5%. So 11.5%, and that is a negative percentage because it is decreasing, right? And then we do the same thing for 2014. I have 11,505, and I'm going to divide that by the 115,050, right? And that will end up giving me 0.11, 0.10, or 10%. Right? So that is a negative 10%. Okay, right. So that's our dollar amounts and our percentages. And is this trend favorable or unfavorable? All right. Well, obviously this trend is unfavorable because we're decreasing, right? We're decreasing the amount of working capital we have from year to year, right? From 2012, it dropped down almost 15,000, and then in 2014, it's now 11,500. So our trend is unfavorable. Okay, so that's it for this exercise. Pause the video if you have to. Rewind it, write it down. I'm moving on to the next exercise. Okay, horizontal analysis. Let's see here. Below is the comparative income statement for Horton. Prepare the horizontal analysis of the comparative income statement. Round the percentage changes to the nearest tenth of a percent. Why did the net income increase by a higher percentage than total revenues increased in 2014? Right, so I'm going to use this data here. I'm not going to rewrite it. So we have an amount, and then we have a percentage. When we're doing a horizontal analysis, right, we're going left to right, and what we end up doing is we take the difference between these two columns. So 595 less 505 is 90,000. 270 less 227 is 43,000. 120 less 110 is 10,000. 48 less 41 is 7,000. 30 less 35 is a negative 5,000. Okay. 30,000 less 35 is a negative 5,000, right? Difference between the two, right, is 5. And because it decreased from the previous year, it's a negative 5,000. So my total expenses, the 468 less the 413 is 55,000. And my net income is 127 less 92 of 35,000. Okay, now notice that this here is just, manual labor work, okay? It's not that complicated, all right? And it's kind of boring, especially to me after having done this forever and ever. But this is, when you have to create it, this is what you need to do. Okay, so now I take the, I have to figure out the percentages. So if the amount is 90,000, okay, remember that's the difference from 213 going to 214. So we use 213's figure as the basis, meaning when I want to find the percentage, I have 90,000, and I'm going to divide it by the 505,000. Okay, when I divide one into the other, that gives me a 17.8%. So my percentage is 17.8%. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same exact thing for every, all of these numbers. I mean, just like I did for the amounts, I'm doing the same thing for the percentages. I'm taking the 43,000 and dividing it by 227,000, and I get 18.9. 10,000 divided by 110 is 9.1. 7,000 divided by 41,000 is 17.1. Negative 5,000 divided by 35,000 is a negative 14.3. 55,000 divided by 413,000 is 13.3. And then 35,000 divided by 92,000 is 38%, 38.0%. Okay, so these are all percentages. Okay, and that's all there is to preparing a horizontal analysis, right? The preparation of a horizontal or a vertical analysis is almost always identical. All right, you're just doing the same process. It's just crunching numbers. Okay, you're not notice that the only thought process that I have here is what numbers am I subtracting and what numbers am I dividing. Right, I'm not really making any major fundamental decisions or doing any kind of analysis of the numbers. It's what we create here. Let me erase this. Okay. It's what we create here that we use for the analysis. Right? So it says here, why did net income increase by a higher percentage than total revenues increased during 2014? All right, so when we look at this, all right, it says, why did net income increase by a higher percentage? Okay, so our net income here, our net income is 38%. Why did the net income increase by a higher percentage than total revenues? And our total revenues are the 17.8%, right? Well, the reason why our net income increased more than what we took, what we had for revenue, is because our total expenses were less than what our revenues were, all right, as a percentage, right? Okay, let's take and look at that again, all right? If I had, I'm going to use the dollar amounts, and even though I'm using dollar amounts, you need to think, we compare apples with apples by using percentages, but to give you an understanding of the concept, if I have 90,000 in revenues, I'm using these amounts here, okay? If I had 90,000 in expenses, I would have a no net change in the amount, my net income, all right, as a change in dollar amounts, right? But because my my expenses were less than, right, so my expenses are only 55,000. Because my expenses are less, that means I had an increase in my net income, all right? And because we're looking here at what's the difference, okay? We're not looking at the absolute dollar values of 2014. We're looking at the difference in the numbers. So if I'm looking at the difference, and like I said, if I had revenues of 90 and I had expenses of 90, my difference would be 0, and there would be no change in the percentages, okay? But because my expenses are less, right, that means my net income increased. And because my net income increased, my percentage from my net income is greater than my percentage of from my revenue because my expenses were less, right? So hopefully that made sense. If not, play with the numbers, okay? Plug in different numbers and, figure out the relationship for yourself. And I've said this before in other videos, that when you're not sure about something, go ahead and plug in numbers and work through a variety of situations so that you do come to understand the concept itself. All right. And this here's, this is what this case is. Why is this percentage here, why is our net income greater than our revenue, right? If our expenses were greater than if our expenses were greater than our revenue, then our net income would be less. Okay, so think about that, and like I said, if you have to, plug in the numbers, and that's what causes you to learn and to understand the concept. My talking about it will go in one ear and out the other until you actually do the numbers for yourself. And I'm not going to sit here and do the numbers because I already understand it. You're gonna, you can watch it all you want, and it's just like watching, a movie. It'll go in one ear and out the other. So put in the numbers and see that relationship. All right, so with that said, I'm done with these two exercises, and I'll pick it up in the next video for the next exercise.